In this video series, I'm going to show you how I apply 4 key design principles that you should be using in every single communication that you create. In this video, we'll be covering
repetition. If you haven't watched my previous video on the 4 key principles, go do that now. But if you have, you'll remember that repetition is really important for creating familiarity and association. It's also really good at enabling quicker recognition and understanding for your reader. So let's take a look at how I apply repetition.
So once again, we're going to use the resume example. So if you watched the previous videos, we've already applied alignment, proximity, and contrast. So in the previous video, we ended up with this version. So I'm going to continue with that and show you how we can apply repetition to make this look even better. So this is the contrast version. I'm going to work on this side and add in repetition. So by now we already have quite a bit of repetition happening. We have the same font used for the name and the headings. And for the most part, we have the same font for the body text. But if you've watched the previous videos, you'll remember that I did call out this text here. So this is not the same font, so that's the first thing we're going to fix up. So the reason that I left some text in a completely different font is because it is something that I see a lot, particularly in documentation. And our brains are really wired to look for patterns. So as soon as something breaks a pattern, like a change in font, our brain automatically says, what is different about this piece of information? So this is a really big problem if you're changing a font for no reason. So that's something that you should just be really mindful when you're creating communication. Unless you want something to stand out, make sure that it is similar to everything else. So one other thing that may have stood out to you through this whole video series is also the fact that we've got dot points here and we've got dashes here, and it just doesn't make any sense. Now obviously if there was a really good reason to change the dot points, so for example sub dot points are often different to the original dot, that's fine. But in here I don't see any need for these dashes to be different from here. So what I'm going to do is remove these and just add dot points so it looks exactly the same as this. So another thing we could do to create a bit more repetition is to repeat the color that I've used at the top throughout for the headers. So once again, for a resume, you may not use color, but I'm just trying to emphasize how you can use color to really tie a piece together, creating not only contrast, but repetition as well. Another thing you might want to do is add in elements that are similar to tie your communication piece together. So it's not necessary, but what I want to do is to make this look well designed and just make it look more professional. So what I'm going to do is add in a line between some of the text. So I'm going to also add one in here. And also here. So now we have several repeating elements. We have 2 key fonts used for the titles and name, and also the same font used throughout the body text. We have the same color throughout, and we also have a repeating element. So there's not really much more to do. There's just a few little things I want to fix up. So give this a little bit of space. As a result, move this down a little bit. And that's it. So if I zoom out and compare to before, I've now added a lot more repetition and, to be honest, more contrast as well with the headings. And it's now just looking way more professional, cleaner, and easy to read. It's very clear now that there's separate sections and where to start and finish. So what I'm going to do now is actually compare it to the original version. So this is the original that we started in the first video, and this is where we've ended up. And it just looks far more professional, cleaner, clearer, and easier to read. So by just adding a few really basic design principles to your communication, you're going to end up with a far more superior and enhanced communication that's just far more cleaner and clearer and professional looking. So if you've enjoyed this video, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And if you have any questions about what I've presented or any questions at all around design, make sure that you let me know in the comment section.